Yep.
Almost there. All right, it is 5:01 p.m. and I'm going to call this meeting to order. Casey, could I have a roll call, please?
Katie? Here. Christy?
Present.
Dana?
Present.
Dan?
Here?
Eric?
Here.
Thank you for that. Could I get a motion to approve the absences, please?
I'll move to approve the absence of James Johnson.
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Do we have any new business?
Nope, nothing new.
Nothing new, okay. Do we have any public comments for non-agenda items tonight? Anyone out there, or? No? Okay. Could I get a motion to approve the minutes, please?
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Do we have any guests that need to be introduced?
I don't think so, nope.
All right. No addition to the agenda. All right, then a motion to adopt the formal agenda, please.
So moved. Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Luis, would you mind reading the disclaimer?
Yeah, not a problem. Chapter 16, Section 22 of the City of Kalamazoo Code of Ordinance states, historical preservation is a public purpose. To serve that purpose, the Historic District Commission is hereby charged with the following responsibilities. A, the Kalamazoo Historic District Commission is empowered to regulate work on the exterior of historic resources and non-historic resources in historic districts in the City of Kalamazoo, and shall otherwise have all powers invested in Historic District Commissions pursuant to the Local Historic Districts Act, MCLA 399-201, and 1970 PA 169, as amended in 1992. B, to regulate work on resources which by city ordinance are historic or non-historic resources located within local historic districts, including but not limited to the moving of any structure into or out of, or the building of any structure in an historic district. The following documents are available in the Community Planning and Economic Development Department, located at 245 North Rose Street. These documents will help assist property owners in understanding the responsibilities of owning property in a local historic district. MCLA 399-201, 1970 PA 169 is amended in 1992, which is the Michigan Local Historic District Act. The Code of Ordinances of the City of Kalamazoo, Michigan, specifically Chapter 16, which deals with historic districts. The Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation and Guidelines for Rehabilitating Historic Buildings, 1990. Standards and Guidelines for Kalamazoo Historic Districts and Maps of Kalamazoo Local Historic Districts. These documents and maps are also available on the City of Kalamazoo website at www.kalamazoocity.org/historic preservation.
Thank you so much, Luis. We're going to call our first applicant, 1535 Grant.
Hello, Christopher Heckman, First Choice Custom Builder, and we are proposing, obviously, a re-roof at 1535, but we have 3 dormers up on the roof. The house is a stucco house, and the dormer's stucco is crumbling, literally. So we are proposing to replace the dormer stucco only with cement board siding, which we have samples of if you'd like to see. That way, it'll never need maintenance again, other than if they decide to repaint the house. Reason for this, one of them is we cannot find a stucco installer that will go that high, if we can even find a stucco installer that's qualified to do the work. So we came up with this proposal.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. Yeah, I would love to see the samples if you didn't mind.
Sure. We also...
And I'm Elizabeth or Lisa Presley. I'm one of the homeowners, and I have photos from the street level so you can see how visible the changes would be to anybody walking by, if you'd like to see those.
And you would paint it the same color as well?
Oh, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
It's just a little bit of the texture. Yeah.
In the application, we put forth a letter from one of the neighbors, and we also have a second letter from the opposite side neighbor in support of this.
Okay. It's funny, doesn't it feel like they should make this in a stucco version, right? Yeah. Yeah.
So the thicker piece would be the corner and trim boards, and then the siding would be the thinner clapboard.
I don't think, yeah, that's cool. I don't think you would even see it. I think you got it too. Oh, thanks. Oh. Oh, okay, we're passing them down. Well, thank you for that.
Yes, please, that'd be great. I can make a trade with you.
I have a question, and I don't know if you can answer it, but why won't anyone go up that high to repair it? Is it like just a safety concern? I mean, certainly historically, someone was willing to go up that high, and it's...
So it's the application of the stucco. The installers, that's a dying trade, unfortunately. In fact, to find anybody to even do ground level stucco correctly is very difficult. We have an older gentleman that would do 8-foot to 10-foot tops. There's no way, he said, he's going to go up that high, even with scaffolding and all. And to be honest with you, stucco in that application where the pie-shaped pieces of the dormer come in contact with the roof is a terrible situation. Water will eventually break it down, and they'll be doing this again probably within 10 years or less. So this would be a permanent fix. And obviously the roof being totally re-roofed, re-flashed, we're going to repair any structure that's damaged as they open up the old roof. The whole thing will get redone, and we already know there's going to be structural issues that will need repairing, but none of the footprint gets changed. The overhangs, everything will look the same. It's just the material being used.
Great, yeah, it's a beautiful house.
Thank you. We think so, too.
You should see the inside.
I have one more question. Maybe you can answer, or maybe Luis can answer, but through the cracking here, I was just curious, do you think stucco was the original material for this house? Just because it looks like some of the window trim almost is more flush with the stucco, so I was just curious if you knew the history.
We believe that it is the original. Many houses on our block are all stucco, and my sense is none of the current owners would have chosen that, for that. And actually, Sharon Ferraro visited our home and said, yes, this is original, and that if we ever wanted to apply to get rid of it, A, it probably wouldn't pass, and B, it would have to be probably considered hazardous waste because there's asbestos in it. So I'm just glad we saw the house first in the dark, because my partner would have never bought a house that was stucco, and she didn't know that until she fell in love with the inside of it, so.
I'd just like to comment real quick. You're right about the stucco thing. Used to be a trade, but there was one guy in town that was really good, but he's long gone now. So trying to replace with stucco, you're talking about finding somebody coming from somewhere else. Yeah. I don't know if I think the Hardy board is 100% forever product, but I think in this case, we've been talking a lot about, we have guidelines, but the thing is, you can't get cypress that was cypress when these houses were built. You can't get cedar. So this is a perfect opportunity, in my opinion, to look at some of these products, try them out, and then we have some information to go on. I don't think you have much better options than what you're choosing here. That's my opinion. So,
Thank you.
Anyway.
Yeah, we looked into it, and even with a wood siding of sort, we'd be up there maintenance-wise, and, for durability purposes, I think the Hardy board's definitely gonna weigh.
All right, does anyone have any more questions, or would someone like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve a certificate of appropriateness for the work as described in the application as it complies with the Secretary of Interior Standards 2, 5, 6, 9, and 10.
Seconded.
Casey, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Katie?
Yes.
Christy?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
All right, so that
The
passed.
golden buzzer.
That passed, and I'll be in touch with you by the end of the week to get the formal paperwork over to you guys. But you do have the green light now to go up there and replace that stuff. So
Excellent.
And then there are your
Thank you
samples.
very
so
much.
don't
Oh,
forget
these.
to-
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys.
We're calling up 436 Stewart.
Hello. I am here to, I submitted an application for the demolition of the carriage house at 436 Stewart. And the main reason I submitted this was for safety purposes. And in my research, the existing carriage barn was built in the 70s by the homeowner at the time. When we purchased the home in 2021, we had to do some work on the inside of the barn, and in that work, it was inspected, and a number of issues were identified about the structure of the carriage barn. And one thing, there's 2 cross beams in the carriage barn. Are those photos available to pull up? Yeah. So there are 2 cross beams that are holding up the entire second floor of the carriage house, and there's visible crack lines along the entire cross beam. And in 2021, when we poured a new concrete floor in the carriage barn, just visibly seeing those cracks, my builder at the time sistered one of the cross beams and also put some angled beams to help kind of support that. But since then, I visibly see the cracks just widening and widening. And a couple weeks ago, I had a builder out, and he's like, those cracks at one point were like, he's like, I think that's like a ½ inch thick. And the beams also have been compromised. Well, they were used, they came from the King's Mill factory, like, I don't know when that, it was reclaimed wood that was used to build this carriage house. So basically, I have looked into numerous avenues, contractors, replacing the cross beams, and I've also looked into, in addition to just those cross beams, there's over the years openings and gaps, and there's been raccoons living up there. It's we can't get to the second floor right now because, it's just in disrepair. And so if I think about just replacing those cross beams, I'm not sure how that's going to shift the entire structure and maybe uncover more problems or create more problems. And I right now, like one of the main reasons I bought this home was because of the charm of the barn. But as I walk into it every day, I have like fear that the building is going to collapse. I have tried to find a structural engineer to come and give me an assessment. I did finally find someone, and it would be another $1,500 for them just to come and assess it. But they were coming from Grand Rapids to do that, which isn't that far, but there isn't anyone local that I've been able to find. So I guess I'm here to see if the option of demolishing the carriage barn is something we can look into, and with the plan of rebuilding something that would look historic and have the same charm, but just be a safe structure for us to use.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you questions, and
Sure.
Luis, can you verify that it was? I read the article. That's super interesting.
I know.
Yeah. Can you verify that is when it was built in the 70s and didn't show up on any maps before that or anything?
So maps are a fickle mistress, I think, when we look at them. You can see things on a map, but it does not necessarily tell you what was there. The Gazette saying that it was being built, to me, is a very good indicator, especially considering the kind of harrowing story that accompanied all of this happening, that Mr. Bright was using it to kind of escape the murder of his son when he went to Mexico. There was something behind the building at one point, but I believe that when I looked at the Sanborns, it was a one-story building.
when I was in school, they really cautioned us that you have to take maps with a grain of salt, because just because something occupies that space does not mean that it's the structure that you're looking at today. And I think people can get in a lot of trouble that way. So again, I think that I take the article at face value and believe what the article says about it being constructed around that time. These two individuals were very prominent individuals in the Stewart neighborhood around this time as well, that were super into making, I think, the Stewart neighborhood what it is today, and the way that they kind of pushed for the Stewart Neighborhood Association to start at that point. So I don't necessarily doubt the veracity of the article at all. I think what's interesting is that through the construction of that barn, it's almost a direct violation of standard number 3, which says that we should not be creating a false sense of history, because that's what's happened through the building of this barn.
Especially even making it out of like reclaimed materials, that really muddies it even more.
Yeah, so when we had the floor removed, just as one piece of information, the builder, he removed them. He said none of this wood would be reusable because it was used in a factory, and whatever chemicals were seeped into it over the years. He's like, I'm not even going to touch this with like his equipment. So he burned all the wood, but yeah, and from what I've gathered, just from my neighbor, he's like, he saw John build the structure, and
that's pretty
at times he questioned what, he was a tinkerer, and he did a lot of work on the home. But just the structural integrity of the building. Again, I know there's sentimental value. He built it for his son. I dedicated it to my mom. So there's a lot of like sentimental feeling behind it. But I just don't want it to collapse and then there be another tragedy.
Yeah.
So and when I look into my builder's eyes when they're looking at the beam and thinking, oh, good, this needs to be addressed as soon as possible. And then I'm like, well, how exactly? And they're like, well, you need to talk to a structural engineer. And I did finally come across one that would be willing to come down, but just to assess it again, it would just be putting a lot of money into something that I feel like we as homeowners would like to, we just want to have a safe structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to comment on as far as the cracks, if that is a solid timber as it appears, the cracks aren't as big a concern in and of themselves structurally.
Okay.
But it does look like it may be undersized. I can see from the pictures that this guy, like you said, to use your term, tinkerer, not that it's built tremendously poorly, but there are some things that I would do differently or someone else might do differently. You also have the fact that this, based on the article, I would not dispute the fact that this is not an original building. So as far as our guidelines, I would say if I wanted to see a motion, I would like to see it made with what you were saying. Hey, if we're going to put another carriage barn up, it's going to have this historic style. It's going to meet this. And I'm very much in support of that, because then you could do the other things you need to do in that building to make it functional and usable. And you're the one holding all the skin. You got everything in the game here.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, just for what it's worth, I think it's going to be great in the end.
Great.
For the sake of conversation, was the Stewart neighborhood historic in 1983? I think I saw on the library website.
The local historic district was 73, I believe.
Yeah, 73. Well, that was when the association began in 73. I think it was maybe a few years later that it became a district.
Okay, so this is what I'm struggling with, is the structure, while not historic itself, was built while the historic district existed, and that would be between 40 and 50 years ago. So at what point could this building be considered historic, or could it at all? I guess that's I want to understand.
Think that we really need to pull back when we look at that, and if we're going to look at it retrospectively, which I think is a dangerous exercise, when it was included, it would not have been 50 years old. So if we want to use that as a litmus test, then we really have to be careful in the way that we apply that litmus test. There's no way that the building could have been 50 years old, obviously, at the construction date, at the institution of the local historic district in Stewart, which was one of the first big ones in the city of Kalamazoo after South Street. South Street might have actually been 73, and then I think that Stewart was actually 76. So for the creation of the local historic districts, the question has also been brought up of, the materials being old. That is true, but we're not looking, again, and I think that we see this kind of echoed out of the stucco case, that we're not looking at necessarily the parts, but we're looking at the whole. Not the parts of the component, but the whole, and how do they holistically interact with each other. Are two considerations that I think I would look at. Also, just for clarity's sake, I want to make sure that we know that the applicant is coming here today to look at the demolition, and if construction was to be broached in the future, which is what we discussed on the phone for full
Yes.
transparency, the applicant would need to come back at a later date to bring that forward as well, just so everyone's on the same page. But that is a good question, Christy.
Yeah, thank you for that context. And I'm grateful that Stuckey brought up some of the construction insights, because I think he's got a very keen eye for those sorts of things. I guess, yeah, I think I would also have certainly safety concerns as well. I did walk by and I noticed the roof, even you could see, was a little dippy just from the road. And to hear that it was reclaimed materials, I think also, yeah, that has definite structural concerns in my concern book. I did just want to call out, I would strongly encourage you, if you wanted to build something new, I think that would be terrific, just because looking at your streetscape, the whole block there, it looks like on the east side where you are, every single house appears to have a carriage house.
Yes.
So I think if you were willing to come back and propose a new build, I think that would be a really nice supplement to replace what we might take down.
And that would be my plan. I would just, again, a little sentimental, like I dedicated this to my mom. She loved horses, so we call it it was her horse barn. So I would rededicate the new structure, and my plan would be to try to replicate that as much as possible.
That's great. When I was talking about the materials, I was mostly, basically this is a great example on why you should not do that, because time keeps going. And so when this was built with recycled materials, because it fit, 50 years later, however, we're struggling because it looks like it was a historic building. And in my mind, I'm going to use that for an example going forward.
And one thing that these images don't show, one of the crossbeams, I think in multiple places, there's gigantic metal pieces that go all the way through it. So that in itself also kind of compromises the strength of those beams.
Yeah.
If the metal may have been added originally, you'll do that. You'll put a spline or you'll put a bracket or something. It's kind of a mesh between traditional timber frame and beam construction. So I don't know. I'd have to see it, but I'm still in favor of your proposal. So don't sweat.
Does anyone else have any comments or questions? And then if not, if someone would make a motion.
I move to approve a certificate of appropriateness for the...
Sorry, notice to proceed.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
I move to approve a notice to proceed for the work described in the application. Do I need to say criteria A and D? Based on criteria A and D.
Seconded.
Casey, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Katie?
Yes.
Christy?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Sweet. So
Great.
that
Thank you.
carried. I will be in touch with you by the end of the week as well. You're going to need a demo permit for this too. So we together to make sure that you get all the necessary stuff before you start working. Just don't want you to get in trouble by working
Yes.
until you have all the necessary permits. So either tomorrow or Thursday we can talk. So
Great. All right. Thank you so much.
for coming in.
Yeah, thanks so
Very
much.
nice.
All right, we're calling up 1009 Oak.
Is Michael on the phone?
No, he did not request, as far as I know, to call in.
Okay. Okay,
Unless I completely missed something.
Sorry?
Unless I completely missed something, but I didn't see it.
Okay. So basically what we are looking at doing here, so I'm the contractor that Michael will be using for this. My understanding is that they came to you guys once and the decision was to reject their proposal last time. So we're back for a second proposal on what we would do for this. So basically there were 2 windows that were replaced with a vinyl replacement window. You can kind of see, or sorry, there was 1 window that was replaced with a vinyl replacement. The other window was just boarded up. So if you look at kind of the left picture where the light blob is, that is been boarded up, or not boarded up, but it's been sealed up with siding. And then the picture on the left is the vinyl replacement window that they put in. The proposal is to return those openings back to the basically as close as we can get to the original size with original trim for the most part, because the wood's gone, but basically try to replicate the size, the shape, the look of what all of the other windows look like, the best that we can, but using, instead of vinyl replacements, it's a Anderson, I think it's Anderson, what was in the application?
A100.
A100
which is a Fiberx
in the
window.
application. Yeah, so the Anderson, Anderson A100 windows.
Says wood.
And it's a composite wood as far as I could tell.
Yeah, it's like a composite Fiberx.
Yeah. And then, I don't remember this one specifically, the rejection. Did you guys seal up that window, or you guys have the house and you're trying to just put it back?
I am not 100% sure on those details. I don't know. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Because that would, I did not do that.
Luis, we're not going back and fixing that was something that happened prior. This is just asking permission to do this?
No, they got denied to do this work, and now this is the remedy for the work.
Okay.
They got denied to remove 1 window on the north, or remove 1 window on the west face there, and then install the vinyl window on the north face, and then this is seeking to remedy that situation.
Oh, okay. All right, well then, yeah, that sounds a lot better. Yeah, the wooden windows are as close as we can get to the original sizes.
Yeah, and a little bit, I guess, so when we're looking at the cost of the wood windows, so I actually bought a wood window 2022, 2023, and it was $1,000 then, and for similar size, maybe a little bit smaller, and I just got another quote for the similar one. It was like $2,500. It was crazy. It was like, and it's just unbelievably like, and then like lead times are like, we don't even know if we can get them, because like there's only one place that I could find, and then it's just like kind of crazy. So it's unfortunate.
Can I ask, with the openings, you said you're gonna restore them as close to possible? And this is just a question for my own understanding. What you do inside is your business, but does any of that affect what you might want to do in there, bathrooms or bedrooms or this sort of thing, closets? So that's not really an issue?
No.
Yeah.
No, it's both like, both those windows are like the same face. So like the white up there is this side, and then the vinyl replacement is like right next to it. So, and I think it's just like a build out.
Yeah,
it's not
so it's more of a cosmetic thing probably, that we rejected it, of course, in the fact that it was vinyl. But
I think so.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Well,
And just for maximum clarity, you will be doing the double hung window style that matches everything original to the house. No more 6 mutton cottage pane, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes. It will not have the grills in them.
I just had a quick question. Can you give us your name and who you work for?
Yeah, so my name is Austin Straczynski, and
Can you spell that, please?
you can't spell that? It's SROCZYNSKI, and so I run a construction company. We call it Edgestone Construction.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, licensed builder. So.
And you said Edgestone?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, and I have a light builder's license as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've done things like this before. Like we'll make sure like the cap, when we put the cap on, make sure to make it look the best that we, as similar as, with water being as watertight as possible.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know if it's a question for Luis or fellow commissioners, but have we approved the Anderson A100 windows before? They're 40% wood, so I guess I'm just trying to understand. To me, that's mostly plastic, but have we approved a 100 series before? Like the VNA ones we approved in February, I looked, those were 200 series, and they were wood frame with a vinyl coating or something.
That's a great question, Christy.
I think the wood is on the inside on those, though. I don't think the wood's on the outside.
Correct.
Yeah.
But
I guess it's 40% wood, actually a wood window by our standard.
It's a very good question. I'd like to comment that too, just kind of to echo what I said earlier. There's a point here, and I think we've reached it, that our guidelines say one thing, but the reality is something completely different. And it gets to be a slippery slope, like what do you let in, and you let him do this window, but I think from what I saw, it's a good product, and I think it's going to match. It kind of like the other thing is the siding, right? The hardy board. Well, it's going to match about as good as we can get in the situation. I mean, so yeah, I'm in support of it. I don't know that specific product personally, but I think it looks. It's not a cheap product, if that helps.
It's better than vinyl, but like I don't want our standards to. I'm not changing the standards by saying this. I'm just saying I don't want our interpretation of our guidelines to be, well, it's better than vinyl. That's
excellent point.
Because I think 40% to me doesn't really feel like a wood window, but
when I talked to the folks that we're looking to get the windows from, they said that they have had them approved before. I think it's Windows Woodwork Specialties, I think is what it was, and they've said they've had it approved. They act like when I said it, they kind of laughed about it, like, oh yeah, like, and I was like, that doesn't seem, but I don't know what house, or I don't know. Yeah. So maybe they're just saying that.
I mean, I guess one other way to look at it would be, if the purpose is to preserve the house, and I have no reason to doubt you, because we all know supply chain and costs have gone up. If you don't know when you're going to be able to put a wood window in, your choice is just to let it sit for a while and hope that you get this astronomically priced wood window, or here's a product you have that is a compromise. It is a compromise, but it gets the job done. It seals the house up. It, moves the use of the house forward. So, it's.
Will your trim then match all of the other windows, same reveal and everything?
Yeah, the best we can. Some tricky part is that the thickness of the old wood can be like almost like a deck board, like 5/4 or whatever, and 1.25 inches. And like sometimes it's hard to get it to match exactly, but like from the road or from walking by, like if you're not like, hey, you're going to look at this, you won't know. You won't know that it was like that.
So this is not affecting my decision, but I do want to talk more about is there a list that anyone's compiled of approved product replacements, or is there any project like that going on and we could reference in the future, or?
No, and I think that would be a really dangerous thing to go down. We're going to be looking at a lot of proprietary things that inherently, through compiling a list, then we're going to start to reveal biases, and we do not want to do that. Okay. I think that people are not going to like this interpretation, but I think that every historic district across the nation probably has kind of poisoned their brains with vinyl. If you look through the Secretary of the Interior standards, there's no explicit mention of vinyl, right? This is something that's completely reactionary, I think, and probably for good reason. But when we have these standards that we're looking at, I don't think that it's appropriate for us to say, or even to make the equation and try to equate like something is good and then vinyl is bad, right? Because it's never explicitly stated in anything. When we look at number 6, which is what we're looking at, and 9 and 10, and I can't remember if I cited 6, 9, and 10, or just 9 and 10 because the windows are already gone. 6 says that things should be repaired rather than replaced, which we're not doing here anyways, but I think that in a roundabout way it probably applies because we want to repair rather than replace, but when we need to replace, it needs to do the best to match them in all design elements and where possible, material. All the other design elements are things that come first in that list, and material is the only thing on that list that says, and where possible, material. So we want to look at size, compatibility, massing, and design. These are relatively unadorned windows. They're 1/1 windows. As you pointed out, Christine, none of them are divided into 6/6, right? So those things are easy enough to figure out, right? 9 and 10, then when we look at them, 9 saying like, hey, can we put this in, and is it going to be differentiated from the old? It's going to be differentiated from the old through new materials, but I think it's still going to be compatible with the massing, design, et cetera, of the structure. And number 10 says, can we put these in and then take them out without impairing the overall integrity of the house? I think, in my opinion, when we're looking at this, yes. I mean, we're putting it back now. We're reverting something that in and of itself changed it because we changed the fenestration. But we would be able to take out those windows in the future and be able to put something new into the existing openings that are made there, right? I don't think that that's out of the realm of possibility. That was a roundabout way to say that, I think that the lists to me really walk a fine line because a lot of the materials, I'm sure that Fibrex is a proprietary material that Anderson owns, right?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to support any one material by saying like, oh yeah, and I completely understand your guys' questions though. Have we approved these before? Is a legitimate question to ask, I think. But I don't want to say like, hey, we've done these 5 times, so now Fibrex gets on the list, because I think it gives unfair credence to a proprietary thing when we're looking at materiality of them, not necessarily proprietary brands.
Yeah, no, that answers it pretty clearly for me. Okay, yeah, I don't have any more questions or comments. Does anyone want to make a motion or make a comment?
I just wanted to say, I don't dispute anything that Luis said, but I would say as far as vinyl, you cannot repair vinyl. It's not possible. So I think that's probably, as he mentioned, a good cause why we have a stigma or we have a prejudice against vinyl. So.
Yeah. On that note, would you like to make a motion? All right.
I'll do it. Move to approve a certificate of appropriateness for the work as described in the application as it complies with Secretary of Interior Standards 9 and 10.
I'll second that.
Could we get a roll call vote, please?
Katie?
Yes.
Christy?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
So it got approved. I'll reach out to Michael tomorrow, and I'll CC you on it, just to let him know, hey, you guys are good to go, and you can, gonna need a building permit to open the wall back up, I'm guessing, to put that stuff in, but you're good to go on my end once the paperwork gets out.
Might not need to, just based on what the other person did.
Okay, yep. As long as you guys get it figured out, I
Yeah.
trust you guys, so sweet. Thank you for coming in, I
No
appreciate it.
problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks so much. All right. Do you want to do the coordinators' reports?
Yeah. Nothing terribly crazy. We had a lot of reviews. I'm just trying to pull mine up. So there was like 16 reviews last month. I think I only had 3, so that's a lot more reviews that have come in. Lots of roofs, right? When we look at 151 East Michigan, they were just asking for more time to put up the sign on the bank building down there, so that's what the sign renewal is. 910 Davis is a very, very, very non-historic garage that has 2 sets of garage doors. The guy wanted to put in some human doors instead to be able to access that space, and then put on some rails on the second story. 115 Monroe was, the owner had a picture of the house that showed that there were shutters on it before. Photograph photographic evidence, if you can substantiate making those changes, I will administratively approve them if you're going to revert it back to what it was. And then there's metal rails on that property. 728 West Level is rebuilding the egress stairs, so it was nothing new. 603 Stewart was a very small shed that was going to be put up. And then your kind of standard stuff like porches and roofs. So nothing too out of the ordinary there.
Great, okay. If there's nothing else, then I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 5:41 PM.
I think there might be one more
Oh,
thing.
one more thing.
And I'm not sure of the process of how I go about it, but I'm submitting my resignation from the board, and I don't know if that's all I have to say, or?
Yep, that's
Okay.
Yep. Thank you so much for the time you've put in on it. It's been great working with you.
Your comments have been so valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. And then, 5:41 PM, meeting adjourned. Yeah. Sorry to